everybody. Welcome back to I Am Shatoria. As you know, we are in season 3. We're kicking it off with a couple of tough conversations, and this is being one of them, and this is one that is near and dear to my heart. As you guys know, this is a safe place, and you also know we talk about love, hope, forgiveness, and a whole lot of faith. And today's topic is the one that tugs at my heart and a lot of people, not just women, but people in general, and it's the infertility talk. This is October, and so with us hitting 1 year into I Am Shatoria, this topic is really big to my heart, and I will be joined for the next 2 sessions by some wonderful people that I know personally. I've watched their journey. I've been able to be privileged being part of their life. So I'm excited to talk about this, but it needs to be talked about. So I want you guys to meet one of my coolest, loving, heartfelt Southern belles, who I love so much. Rachel, she is crazy about. I met her from her husband, who was all stationed here, and they just became family to me. And I've been able to watch her story that I didn't even know existed at the time. And I got to see it, and I was like, whoa. So I am privileged for her to be open enough to talk about this, because a lot of people don't. So just to give people a disclaimer, this is a sensitive topic, and this is one that we're going to be real about. So, be mindful when you're listening and be respectful to those that you're hearing, because it's real life. A lot of people are going through it. And so I'm glad that Rachel is here to talk about her journey. So hi, Rachel.
Hello, thanks for including me.
Absolutely. As I said, this is definitely a sensitive conversation, and I'm very pleased that you are here to even talk about it, because like I said, a lot of people don't want to talk about it. And as we talk about it, I got the questions, and whatever questions you want to throw in, let me know. We're here for tears and all. Let's do it. So we're talking about infertility, and a lot of people don't like talking about it, or don't even like broadcasting it, going through it. So one of my biggest things for you is, because I remember you getting pregnant with the first one, Finley, with his cute self. But when did you realize that you actually had infertility issues?
I guess it has been about 2.5 years ago. When Chris and I wanted to start a family, we talked about it, and I was very much like a planner, and it's like, okay, we're going to make this happen. And honestly, we got pregnant very quickly with Finley. And I had a very easy pregnancy with him, no issues, and I was very naive about it all. I was 26, and it was not even a thought, like, okay, I'm going to get pregnant, and I'm going to have this baby, and we're going to have this wonderful family. And then, in a few years, we're going to have another one. And so, a few years later, it's like, you can't get pregnant. And when you do get pregnant, you keep, miscarrying, you keep having these losses. And so that was very much, in an 18-month period, I had 3 recurrent miscarriages back to back to back. And I went and saw all kinds of doctors. I had all kinds of blood work done. I had all kinds of scans and imaging done. And it was always the same thing. Oh, there's nothing wrong. Anatomically, everything looks great. You're young, just keep trying. So there was never any explanation. It was just this unexplained secondary infertility, where I've got this child. I have Finley, who at this point, he was 3. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I know my body can do this. Why is it failing me? That's how I felt, and it was hard. And especially being a military spouse, where Chris was not always there. I mean, when I had my first miscarriage, he was literally had been home for like 24 hours and had been at NTC, he'd been at training, and he comes home, and, we're all excited that we're going to have another baby. And then that's just like ripped from you, because you know, it happens, and it happens more than people realize. And at the time, I never had anybody that had experienced what I had experienced. I didn't have any friends or anybody that was even, you know, sort of close to me that I felt comfortable talking to, who had a baby and then couldn't have another baby. And that was hard. I mean, I knew people, I knew you know, and I knew others who had gone through IVF, or, you know, it had taken them a long time, but then they had a child. But I didn't know anybody who had experienced what I had experienced. And it was difficult. You know, so it happens.
No, so I'm definitely in agreement with you. One of the things is that trust factor, which goes into this question I have for you, because I remember hearing it. The issue that I used to have is the people that was just inconsiderate with their comments when you say, I'm trying to have a baby. Did you experience that? Because I know I did. Did you experience those things of, you know, girl, it'll happen. I mean, you already got one. You okay? Like, and how did you deal with it? What were some of the things that you heard, and how did you really deal with it?
I mean, I definitely heard well, be thankful that you have Finley. Be thankful that you have a child. And I was, and I am. But I can want to grow my family, and I can need that. And I don't have to feel bad that I'm experiencing this. And it was kind of like people would just invalidate my experience and what it was doing to me. You know, my mental health was not in a good place for a long time, and I still struggle with it. Especially anxiety. I mean, and then you know, you bring in the factor of, you know, getting pregnant after loss, and that's a whole nother, you know, emotion and experience in itself. And so I would always hear, you know, these people who are trying to be helpful, and they were trying to be, you know, understanding or whatever, but it rubbed me the wrong way. And people would say, you know, oh, well, this is all part of God's plan. And that's the one that really, it would get to me, because it's like, I have a strong faith, and it's like, but God is not causing this pain, you know, like that's not part of my plan or his plan. And that one was very bothersome. But I would hear a lot like, well, just don't stress about it, it'll happen. You have one child. And it was like, okay, but some people want to have more than one child, and that's okay. So there was a lot of trying to compartmentalize some of it, and, you know, understand that these people do care about me, but they don't necessarily know how to comfort somebody, or maybe they're not comfortable even talking to me or to anyone who's experiencing infertility or loss, because they don't really know what that experience is like. And so that's what I was really seeing a lot.
And I definitely agree. I think one of those subjects, if you've never been in it, you don't really know what to say unless you have that relationship with God to understand how to say it. You know, I learned through you know how we always go through things and we're like, well, God, why I'm going through this? And I've come to my terms in my life that everything I go through is for a reason. Even if I'm not seeing it at that moment, I'm like, okay, because, you know, with us doing IVF and going through infertility, it was like, geez Louise. And, you know, we talked about it today, how, you know, we had a miscarriage, we had a atomic pregnancy. And it's one of those things where you be like, why am I going through this? And now, years later, now that Janae is 7, it's like, now I know, because I'm able to have these discussions. I remember when I came out, when I got to the job, and I was like, no, I'm doing IVF. And people seriously thought I was crazy. It was like, shh, don't say that. I'm like, why? I'm going through IVF. Like, why are we keeping this a secret? And literally somebody was like, thank you for not keeping this a secret, because I have questions. And I was like, whoa. And it became that trend. People were literally like, hey, I ain't got no work question. I got a personal question. You went through IVF? And I was like, yeah, I need to talk to you because I'm having infertility issues. And it became a thing. And it got to the point, I'm telling people, kick rocks. People got a question, I'm going to answer it, because what I'm going through wasn't for me. Yes, I went through it, but now I'm like, oh man, that wasn't for me. And then to even find out my mom went through it. You know, my mom had a pregnancy before all her kids. So my mother's been pregnant 8 times, but she only gave birth to 4. I've been pregnant 3 times and only gave birth to 1. So it's like, okay, cool beans. So that's definitely one of those things that makes sure. So that was my question, is actually, how many times have you actually been pregnant?
I have had a total of 5 pregnancies, and we now have our rainbow baby. So, you know, we do have a newborn. We have a 6-week-old, you know, so he's my miracle.
Absolutely. And I'm taking that, and I wouldn't say taking a guess because I remember it. Being pregnant, one of the things I told people, being pregnant is such a joy. If you are, for us that's gone through infertility, being pregnant is scared as hell. It is scary because, you know, when you get that pregnancy, let's talk about your pregnancy with Finley. You wasn't, and this is how I compare people, and I tell people, let's take me, you, and our first pregnancies. You was pregnant with Finley, and I remember being pregnant with Janae. I worried every day. It was every day. You was like, yeah, pregnant, enjoying it, absolutely, cool beans. And I'm on the other end going, oh my God, have mercy. Let me make it to, like, every week was like, gotta get to the weeks, gotta get to the week. So I always tell people there's a difference in how we see pregnancy. You know, when you see that person that's real happy, you're like, oh. So your second pregnancy, what was the different feeling wise, you know, from, you know, especially with Finley, what was the difference with that pregnancy with the new baby?
I mean, definitely, you know, when I had Finley, it was just, there was a little bit of anxiety like that first trimester. But, you know, once it was like you got to the safe point, which you're always told, you know, make it to 12, 13 weeks and it's okay. Even though I know now, like, that's not true. And, you know, I was very much more like, okay, you know, this is going to happen. We're going to have a baby. And it did with Finley. When I got pregnant the first time and had a miscarriage, you know, it was devastating because I was not expecting it, you know, at all. And when I got pregnant a third time, and here I am like 2 to 3 months after the first miscarriage, and I'm thinking, okay, I've had my miscarriage. I've had my loss, 1 in 4, right? That's what they tell you.
Right.
Okay, I'm good. It's fine. And I have a second miscarriage. And I get pregnant a 4th time. This is during COVID. And this is after we have moved.
Yeah.
You know, I'm away from my support network. Yes, I have a very wonderful, understanding, loving husband, but my friends, my mama, are not here, you know?
You're right.
And I'm in a doctor's office by myself. You know, my husband's not allowed in because of COVID. And that's a whole nother get me on my soapbox about, because
no, you have a whole miscarriage by yourself.
Yes. And that was a year ago this month. I mean, it was this time last year that I was experiencing that. And it was, and with my fourth pregnancy a year ago, I was having every symptom of a pregnant woman. I was nauseous. I was extremely tired. I wasn't having any symptoms of miscarrying. And so here I am thinking, it's fine. This one's gonna work. This is our time. And you go into that sonogram appointment and it doesn't work out. And I'm sitting there alone in this office, and all I'm wanting to do is just go home. And I have to sit there and wait for this doctor to come in. And by that point, too, I had been through this enough. I know what happens when, you know, the ultrasound tech doesn't talk to you, and they bring the screen closer to themselves, and they don't let you see anything, and they don't let you hear anything because there's nothing to hear, you know? And that's what it was. It was very, very difficult.
How, if you don't mind, how far along were you with the 3 pregnancies? Because I think people tend to not understand
Sure.
the concept of layers.
I mean, my first two miscarriages, I was very early on. It was within like the 6 to 7 week time period. And a lot of people will say, oh, well, most people don't even know they're pregnant by then. Well, for somebody who's trying to get pregnant, you know when you're pregnant.
Right.
At least I did. I did with my body. With my third miscarriage, I was 10 weeks along. And so it was like at that point, when you go in, I know, because I have a child and I've had all these other losses, I'm expecting, okay, we're going to go in, they're going to do this ultrasound, and I'm going to hear that heartbeat, you know, and it doesn't happen. And they ask you questions that, you know, like, why are you asking me this? Like, and so I knew before they even told me, like, okay, this is happening again. This is happening a third time. And so then when I got pregnant a 5th time with, you know, who is now my second son, John Gannon, when I went in for that appointment, again, I was alone because it was, here we are, still COVID, because if you haven't figured out, it's still going on. And, you know, the instant that they turn on the sound and I hear the heartbeat, it's like this just flood of relief, you know, and they start showing you images and taking pictures and measuring lengths and coming up with a due date. And so it was like I had all this anxiety waiting for this appointment to happen. And, you know, within those first few minutes, it was like, okay, everything's okay. Everything's all right. But yeah, every single week until he was born and in my arms, it was, is everything all right? Is he going to be okay? Am I going to be okay? And that is, you know, something that it's a level of anxiety I have never experienced until infertility and until miscarriage became part of my life.
As I think about your story, your walk, because I remember, which goes into this question, I remember when you officially came out. I remember us talking about it on Messenger before you actually came out with it. What made you actually go public with it? Because you guys are usually, you and Chris, you guys usually, in which I love, you guys are usually a private family. I am blessed to be part of your circle. So usually I know what's going on. You guys will call or message. But what made you go, here, Facebook, this is what I'm going through. We're in a pandemic, but I want you to know this. What made you step out on that?
I think because at that point, it wasn't so much that I was so sad, it was that I was so angry. And I felt like I know that there are other people who are experiencing what I'm experiencing, and maybe they don't want to talk about it, or maybe they don't know how to talk about it. And I am very open about this topic at this point because I have experienced it. And I've had friends since I have gone through these things who have had very similar experiences. And I try to be a good person. And, at this point, too, I feel like my story can provide somebody hope because I do have this little baby that I never thought I was going to have. And there's got to be somebody else who needs to hear that.
No, and I definitely agree. And like I said, it's crazy when you can go through something and know, oh my God, I'm really not going through this alone. It's one of those, as you said, I know my faith. And I'm really big, which is funny, I'm wearing my faith over fear shirt today. Is really crazy because we tend to forget that this is a real life thing. People are really going through these emotions. With your experience and everything, what was the lesson you caught? Because that's a lesson in everything. I believe God gives us a lesson in everything we do. What is the lesson that you feel like you learned during this process, this point of this process? What did you get out of it? What did you learn outside of the cuteness of little man? Because he's just cute as it can be, cute as a bubble. But what lessons have you learned?
I mean, I think that I definitely learned, like, I have to be kind to myself, and I've got to allow myself a lot of grace. And I mean, honestly, it kind of sounds cliche, but being patient. There was a reason why this child, our second child, was born. And for whatever reason, I don't know why, these other pregnancies didn't come to fruition. And now looking back on it, of course, and people might say, like, well, it's easy for you to say that because you got what you wanted. And there are tons of people who would make wonderful parents and would, love a child unconditionally, but they haven't experienced that yet. Or maybe they're trying to grow their family like we were, and they haven't experienced that yet. And that was another thing. I had to reframe how I was thinking about things and how I would talk about our family. And it was, yes, we have a son, and yes, we want to have another child. And I would always tell myself, it's not that it's not happening, it's not happening yet. Because I had to allow myself, that piece of hope for myself and to be positive about it. And that was very difficult to do.
Yeah, I will agree with you on that. So one of the things that you said that stood out, I'm really big about power of words, and something that I am really big. Me and Christ, we got that down packed. Like, I am big about power of words. So I like how you said you had to change the way you were speaking. I'm really big about what we speak, because I truly in my heart believe you have what you say. Life is in the power of your tongue, and life and death is in the power of your tongue. So I like how you changed that and was like, nah, let me change my words up and let me change my thinking up. And when you said the word yet, God had to remind me of the saying, delayed but not denied. And it goes back to our patience. We've got to have that patience. So I definitely thank you for bringing that to remembrance, because people got to remember everything is a timing and a purpose. Because I'm like you, I didn't understand how is it we went through all these fertility situations even before we got to DC. I'm talking about I spent thousands on the
Ovulation kit.
there you go. Why in the world? I'm like olives, but I had that. I had the timing. I had the calendar. I had checking temperature, driving myself crazy. I remember this, and I didn't understand it. I was like, I'm confused at this. I'm confused. Like, I don't understand. How is it that? And then people around me, and that's why I say God do things for a purpose, because people around me was getting pregnant. And I was like, hold on, Jesus. Now wait a minute. You got not just regular folks, people I'm close to getting pregnant. I'm confused. I'm lost. And I was in my 20s. And I was like, I ain't getting it. I don't understand how this is going on. And I drove myself up the wall, literally. We spent money for IUI. We spent money for medicine like Clomid, all of that. And I won't even lie, I finally was like, you know what, Jesus, I'm done. I ain't even about to try this no more. I'm good. And I never forget, my doctor was like, look, we're gonna move on to IVF. And I was like, you know how much that cost? And I remember us not being able to do it when we was in Oklahoma. And they was like, do it when you get to DC. And let me be honest with you, you know, I was close to not putting in for DC. And remember, I said everything is for a reason. And I remember my supervisor giving me this White House paperwork. And you know how hard it is for us to get into that agency. It's not that easy. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna give it a try. Gonna give it a try. If it's meant to be, God's gonna make it happen. And 4 months later, I had orders, and I was like, whoa, that was quick. Wait, whoa, this is a lot. And I never forget when I told my doctor, I was like, well, hey, I got an assignment at the DC, and she said, oh, you're gonna be at Walter Reed. That's the biggest IVF clinic for the military. And I'm going, huh? Really? She said, oh yeah, they take about 145 patients a cycle. Word? And she said, once you get there, get with your doctor, get over there. And I never forget doing that. As a matter of fact, October this month make, Janae 8 years to the day we started the process. We started the process October 15th, actually. October 15, 2013, we started our journey with the IVF. And I'm like you, I remember. I do have a question that I had to do. Not everybody does it, but I had to do. I had to shut some people out during the, as we call it, the TTC, the trying to conceive process. Did you lose people? Or didn't, and I won't even say, well, we're gonna say lose, distance yourself a little bit, things, relationship change. Did you have that during the process of, we're gonna say your year of going through? How was that year?
I mean, I definitely use that social media mute function quite a bit. So that I didn't even have to see certain people. Who shall remain nameless. But it was hard because there are people who, and friends and, kind of acquaintances, your Facebook friends who it's like, yeah, you cheer them on from a distance and whatever, but like you haven't really talked to them in 5 years or whatever. And it's like I was seeing all of these people who were, getting pregnant or getting pregnant with a second or a third or a fourth child. And, it's not that it was necessarily hurtful, but it always just felt like it was this reminder of
Right.
what I felt like my body was failing me. And when you're trying to remain hopeful and you're trying to remain positive, I don't necessarily want to see everybody's pictures all the time or everybody's whatever.
Right.
And and I try to be mindful of that even myself. Like there will be times when I share stuff and I'm like, but I know that, so-and-so is having a hard time. Like, I hope that this doesn't upset that person. And, maybe that's, even going too much. Like you can't necessarily worry about how, you're not intentionally trying to, cause harm or
Right.
cause feelings or something. But it's always in the back of my mind because I had that same reaction. Obviously, I'm always happy for people when they have, announced a pregnancy or, had another child or had their first child, because it's a miracle. It really is. For, a woman's body to be able to grow an entire human, it's like, I made fingernails and organs today. What did you do? Like only certain people can say that,
This is what I did today. All up in here.
right. But it's definitely, now that I'm kind of on the other side of it, I see myself, kind of incorporating people back into my life that not that I necessarily pushed away, but you just kind of pause because you are protecting yourself.
Yeah.
And in some ways it's kind of like a survival mechanism.
Yeah.
And I probably, at first it was more of like a, unconscious thing where I just like either wasn't necessarily like talking to certain people as much as I normally did or interacting with them as much as I normally did. Because it was a long journey. It was a couple of years of kind of, trying to navigate all of it. And as much as it is mentally draining, it's physically not a very fun experience,
Definitely not. Well, I would definitely say I thank you so much for sharing your story. And I definitely pray someone hears your story and is able to be like, okay, Swain, the only one. And to all my listeners and viewers, this is definitely a high vis conversation that I plan to continuously have because it's very real. And it plays a lot of emotions on you, especially as women. Men take a brunt too, especially the significant others, because we get them mood swings, be mad, and I had a lot of medicine trying to get to this point. So it was like, look here, don't touch me, leave me alone, don't talk to me. I had a whole attitude, If you can, as we end, if you can leave people with something, what would you tell a couple, even married now, what could you tell a couple that's actually going through this? What would be something you would leave them with?
I think that you have to remain hopeful. It might not be happening right now, but it can and it will. And it's not always not right this moment, but it will. And that's what I had to tell myself. And definitely, be okay with feeling upset about it or being angry about it, or all of the different emotions that kind of go with it, because you have to be able to experience it and kind of work your way through it too, because if you don't, you're setting yourself up for a lot of trauma and a lot of grief that will affect you, and it will rear its ugly head at some point. So it might not be right now, but at some point it will happen.
I am definitely with you. Like I said, I'm very thankful for your story. I thank you for you guys' friendship, you and Chris both, and us being able to have a connection, even outside of the kids, just having that connection and being able to walk with you guys through this process, because we know it has not been easy, but I'm thankful for the process. I'm thankful for you even going public with it and was like, this is what it is. And just, we have so much in common. I'd be laughing because we'd be talking about that on, in our messenger, lung cancer, infertility. We have all these things in common, and just like, oh, snap. Okay. Rachel's going through it too. But you guys always know I am here. I love the Cosme family. I miss you guys dearly. I really do. Hopefully we'll be able to actually see each other and hug each other again. Like I told Chris, I'm not about to stay in DC, so.
Well, we miss you guys. We love you guys. And at some point, we're going to move probably next summer. Maybe we'll be in the same state again.
I'm just saying,
we'll figure it out.
Texas is going to have a lot of room. Come on, let's bring it on down. I know we're Southern people. We're Southern people, but I guess we can go to Texas, But no, I really do thank you. I know, right? Everybody ain't feeling it, but it's okay. Just come on. But no, I thank you guys.
We're gonna have to pray about Texas. So
okay, it's okay. That's what visits are going to be for. It's okay. I got to visit, so don't worry. We be doing some visits here. Once I get settled down, we'll be doing some visits, especially to meet this beautiful rainbow baby who's the cutest that he can be. Happy 6 weeks to him. Congratulations to you guys again. And we're definitely wishing you guys the best in your future. And, just keep your positive attitude, keep flowing with it. You got it. And we're here for it. So I definitely thank you
so much.
To all my listeners and my viewers, thank you guys for joining us today on I Am Shatoria. You already know you can check me out on social media. IG, @Shatoria, and podcast is on all major platforms, including YouTube, as you watching me now and listening. Always know you can check out IamShatoria.com for upcoming events and information. And as always, I do not say goodbye. I say see you later. We walk in love. We live fearlessly. Okay? But we always have a whole lot of faith. Thank you guys for joining us today. See you later.